Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first module in the Marketing Automation series, presented by Animus Consulting Group. I'm Austin.spence, and in today's session, we're going to be looking at the basics of marketing automation. And then I'm going to guide you through the process of creating your own customer journey. Now, first, for anyone who is unfamiliar with what a marketing automation tool is, it's just that. It's a tool that lets you automate, delegate, batch, and systematize aspects of your marketing system that would otherwise take a very large amount of time. As you scale your business, these tools become absolutely essential, not just for saving you time, but also for making sure that you are tracking your customer trends to create informed business decisions. Now, I personally have used a plethora of different marketing automation tools: Active Campaign, Post, Pardot, SharpSpring, you name it, Marketo. The UI will be slightly different depending on the tool that you're using. However, the thought sequences are always going to be the same. Think of it like an if this, then that logical path. Once you learn how to set up an automation in one system, it becomes extremely easy to take that same mentality and apply it to another platform. You just need to learn keep up to date with the learning curve of that new UI, but that's it. Now, today I am going to be using an Active Campaign Sandbox I created for the purpose of this series. I found that Active Campaign is a great tool to show examples on because the UI is super neat and clean, and it's pretty easy to understand. Just remember that what I show you in this series can be used in any other marketing automation platform. Now, let's get into the content. Today's automation is going to be one that anyone with an e-commerce website is going to want to have, and that is an abandoned cart sequence. If you're unfamiliar with what that means, it is when a customer has gone through part of your marketing funnel, they've entered in part of their information into the checkout page of your product, then voila, you've lost the sale. They have exited out of that page and they have not converted. But worry not, we're going to be creating a solution to help retain these otherwise lost customers. Now for the first step in our automation, and that is to go to the automation section. Now for Active Campaign, it's going to be right here, and it's just going to say automations. For Post, it will say customer journeys, but it'll all be a very similar type of wording: journey, automation, sequence. Just make sure that on some sites they do say data journey, and that is something that's a little bit different and is not a customer sequence, but a reporting sequence. So make sure that if it does delineate between the two, you choose customer automation or customer journey. Now, once you are on, for Active Campaign, once you are on the automation section of the platform, you're going to go on the top right and click Create New. Now, these tools do generally have a wonderful collection of templates that you can use. However, for the cart abandonment sequence on Active Campaign, it is a little bit redundant and overcomplicated in my mind. It creates two different automations that connect together. So I prefer to create one from scratch on this platform. And it'll also be better to teach you building it out from the beginning instead of editing a template. Now for step 2 of the series, create a trigger. Most automations, you are going to want to have a trigger set up. The trigger is what enters a customer contact into this automation. Now, there are certain exceptions to that rule. If you have another automation that forces a contact into a different automation, or if you have an API integration that does the same. However, that's a little bit more complicated, so we're not going to go into that in this module. For the abandoned cart sequence, there are 2 triggers that I would recommend. Now, the first one is going to be tags. That is the one that I highly recommend. The second one is going to be with site tagging. So I've created 2 different examples on here, one for tagging and then one for site tracking. But I highly, highly, highly recommend tags. I personally, as far as a cart and funnel service, I am a super fan of ThriveCart. ThriveCart is super cheap, one-time fee. I think it's like $600 for the funnel cart as well as a course module. Their customer service is amazing. And in reference to this, they have a plethora of different API integrations with different platforms, not just marketing automation tools, but pretty much anything you could think of. Now, they do have a native integration with Active Campaign, which makes this process extremely easy, or any of the other tagging processes. So you can set it up in ThriveCart so that when a customer exits out of the cart, it automatically creates a tag to put into Active Campaign. If the contact information already exists in Active Campaign, it'll update it, add the tag, and then that will trigger them to enter into this automation. If they do not have customer contact inside of Active Campaign, it will create a new one based on the information that it has gathered inside of ThriveCart in the checkout page. Now, if you were going to do it the tagging way, we will go over tagging in another module. It's a whole thing in and of itself. But if you are going to go the tagging way, you will need to create a tag that says, whatever the name of the product is, dash cart abandoned. I highly recommend on naming conventions to keep them consistent. One, it makes your job easier. And when you're creating new things, or if you're delegating it to maybe an agency or a sole contractor and you're having somebody else build out your funnel, whether this goes for Facebook, YouTube ads, whether it's on Active Campaign, whether it's on Google Analytics, anything that has to do with data, make the naming conventions consistent. As an example, you might pull a report on everything that has to do with this one product, say awesome product -1, and you have 8 different products. Now, if your naming conventions aren't consistent, if you export that data into an Excel sheet and you're trying to crunch the numbers, filtering is going to be a headache. And if you have a lot of data, it gets harder and harder and harder to do. Now, that's a little bit of a tangent, and I'll go into more on the naming conventions in the tagging module, but that is very important, so I'll probably mention it several times throughout this series. Now, the second option for setting up your trigger for Active Campaign or any platform that you're using is going to be site tracking. I will be going into more onto setting up site tracking as well as reporting and analytics in another module. However, for now, as a basic overview, when you set up site tracking for Active Campaign, you do it in this section called Site. You will set it up for your domain. For the example here, it is animusgrp.com. That is the domain. And so any other page on that entire domain will also be tracked because you're tracking it at the highest level, which is the domain entity. Now, for tracking for the abandoned cart sequence, you will want to track the exact URL. So have the domain here /funnel instead of /information or contact. So it's in the funnel section, and then /HUG-training, which would be the specific product that you might be selling. For you, it might be awesome training 1. And the more products you have, you're going to want to make sure that, another comment on naming conventions, you're going to want to make sure that it is consistent. So don't just do funnel/product, because as soon as you create your second product, what are you going to name it? Product 2. It gets messy, and make sure that, especially for reporting, and make sure that if you're using an agency or a contractor to do your coding for you and site tracking for you, enforce naming conventions. A lot of contractors are good, a lot of agencies are good, but you want to set clear definitions to make them consistent. It's very important. Off my soapbox on naming conventions again for now, but it is important. So yes, that is going to be tracking once you have the exact URL, it will track. And so what this logic path does is contact visits that exact URL and is not currently in automation, which is ACG example, cart abandonment, site tracking, is this automation. Usually you won't run into an issue, but I like to have this set up. So you would go into advanced, segment the contacts entering this automation. You would choose not currently in automation, and then you would choose the automation. that is important because sometimes it's not supposed to happen, but sometimes a contact can enter into the same automation more than once. And what happens there is that if you have emails, campaigns, or anything that has an interaction with a customer, it can potentially repeat those actions. And so a customer might get your first cart abandonment email twice. That's not great. It's real bad. You're going to cause most likely churn, probably not going to convert, and potentially you're going to get an unsubscribe or mark as spam. And that's could hurt your deliverability. So you'd want to make sure that you have that there just in case. Now for the third step in this sequence, creating a time-bound variable. Now, the reason why we want to create a time-bound variable in this case for the first step, waiting for 3 hours. The reason why we want to do that is because the next step of the sequence checks to see if they have purchased the product, because you don't want to send an email asking someone to purchase a product if they've already purchased the product. And the reason why we wait 3 hours is because you want to make sure that it wasn't a mistake that they abandoned the cart. Maybe the customer had accidentally refreshed the page, accidentally exited it. They lost power, they lost the internet, they had to run into a meeting, whatever the reason why they exited the page, but they might be coming back to it soon. And so on average, you want to wait 1 to 3 hours. I wait 3 hours just to give them a little bit more leeway, but you want to do it quickly because they're a hot lead. So as you go down the funnel or down the automation, sorry, you generally between emails, you want to wait at least a full day. At least I do. You want to wait at least a full day before sending them an additional follow-up email in the sequence. But the initial contact, you want to do it quickly while they're hot. Now, if someone is in your checkout page for the product, they are the hottest a lead can get. They are highly motivated. They are about to convert. But maybe it was the marketing psychology. Maybe there was friction, anxiety. There wasn't high enough motivation to reinforce your value proposition on the page. We can get into the marketing psychology behind why a customer says yes in another series, but for whatever reason, they did not convert, and you don't want to send them an email if they're about to. Now, how you do this, how you set this up is you're going to click the plus sign, conditions and workflows, the first thing that pops up, click wait, and wait for a specified period of time. And for this, it will be the 3 hours. Now, as you can see here, there is another option, just as a side note, wait until specified conditions are met. For most of your very basic sequences, it's going to be wait for a specified period of time. However, you can incorporate them if you have multiple automations that connect to each other, you have API integrations with other tools. An example might be if you have a sales platform that your sales team uses, maybe Salesforce, which is the most popular one. Active Campaign comes with its own called Deals CRM. And so maybe you don't want to send a specific follow-up email until one of your salespeople has reached out to them, and then they have marked somewhere in the system that they have reached out to them, and maybe they try to convert them over the phone or through a personal email, and it did not work. And so you want to wait until a specific condition is met, and then follow up with an additional item. Or maybe I'll leave it there for now. There's a lot of different things you can do with it, but for the most part, for basic automations, you're going to want to wait a specific period of time. Now for step 4, adding an if or else split. Now how you do that is you're going to create the plus sign, conditions and workflows, if and else. Now for this automation, why we're creating an if and else split is to segment which path a customer goes under. What you do not want is to have an automation of maybe 5 to 10 conversion emails trying to get a customer back into your funnel, but it never checks whether or not the customer has purchased it. And so maybe your first email was really motivating. They were a super hot lead. They were already motivated, and they just needed a little bit of a kick in the butt to be able to purchase the product and finish out the funnel. And they converted on the first email. If you never check to see whether or not the customer is a purchaser, then you will be sending more and more emails after they've purchased. It is not great. And it leads to a lot of customer dissatisfaction. If I get emails like those myself, I am a little picky when it comes to emails, but if I get emails like that, I mark them as spam. I know it hurts deliverability for the other person, so sometimes I feel bad, but it is extremely important not to aggravate your customer and oversend, and especially send inconsequential or useless, essentially, emails. I worked, as a personal example, I worked with an online e-com company previously, and they had a system set up like that. It wasn't purposeful. It was just they didn't know what they didn't know, and they had the owner was a copywriting machine, and so I think they had 15 emails in the automation sequence, and at no point in the sequence did it check to see if they were a purchaser. And the customer service team had, in about a week's time after they created that automation, the customer service team had received dozens of messages from buyers, from converted leads saying, why am I getting these emails? Why are you telling me to purchase this? Why are you trying to sell this to me? I'm already a customer. And that is not great for customer experience. So anyway, that is the rationale behind making sure you have an if or else. Of all the different things in an automation, no matter what it is, not just a cart abandonment, but any automation, this is probably the one that I use the most because it's an if this, then that mental pathway. It allows an extraordinary level of customization to target your audience. Now, as we get more and more complicated, and not in this series, these modules are going to be pretty, marketing automation 101. But as we go into deeper courses and modules, we'll get into creating dozens of different if-else pathways within a single automation to target a customer's purchase trends or profile heavily. And using this tool in specific, or this function specifically, the if-else, is the best way to do it. So that is the rationale behind it. For this, how to actually do this is for if you're doing the site tracking, as you can see right here, does the contact match the following? And you'll go to site and event data and has ever visited. And then the exact URL for this is going to be your domain /funnel/product and then /confirm. Now the /confirm means that they have purchased the product. They cannot get to the confirmation page unless they have purchased. For the tagging system, it's just going to determine whether or not they have the tag, which is, for this product, ACGT-buyer. And if they do have that tag, if yes, it will automatically end the automation, because you do not need to send them any more emails, at least for cart abandonment. If they're a purchaser, there's no need. They've converted. However, if it's marked as they have not, then it will begin the email sequence as it goes along. Another note on naming conventions has to come. Make sure that you have a specific tag for each product. So ACGT, Animus Consulting Group Training -buyer. Maybe there, however many you have, create that many tags. Now, as you'll see right here, I have an or section that checks to see if they are in a specific list. Again, I'll go more into lists in the segmentation module in this course series. But this checks to see if they are a buyer, if they've purchased anything. Sometimes, depending, I'm having this here as an example because sometimes depending on what your business model is, the types of products you're selling, if you have products that are very similar, but you have them split up depending on demographic, you may not want to send a cart abandonment sequence if that person has purchased any of your products. Or maybe you can create a list that is like your batch one. So maybe you have a product that you have 3 products that are all very similar, and you don't want to send abandoned cart emails for anyone who has purchased any of those products. And also make sure you click or. If you click and, it's going to only trigger if both of these variables are true. And that will obviously mess up the sequence. Now for step 5, sending the emails, following up or contacting the customer itself. So after this is checked to make sure that they are not a buyer, or if you have the list set up that they haven't purchased anything, either any of your products or in the list segmentation that you have of certain products, whatever variable that is, if the answer is no to this SL statement, then it will begin the sequence. And so going back through this, it has waited 3 hours after they have left the page, and after the conditions are met, it has sent them their first email, the first cart abandonment series email. Now, you can just do 1 email. Most cart abandonment series has at least 3 emails. You can also integrate SMS messages into it as well. If you do integrate SMS, I would highly recommend using Twilio. It's pretty cheap, especially if you do not have a lot of flow through your sequence, but even large scale, the cost is, I think, 0.004 cents per SMS message. It is extremely affordable. They also have great reporting and an amazing amount of customization. You can actually make automations inside of Twilio for text messaging, which is pretty awesome. And it also has amazing deliverability. So in the same way that email deliverability can be a problem depending on your service provider or your servers, SMS deliverability can be an issue as well, and Twilio is very trusted. So I would highly recommend that. So yes, you send the email, you may send up follow-up SMS, and then I found best personally to wait a day between emails. And yeah, so for this example, I only built out 2 different emails just as a showcase. And then at the end of this is optional, but at the end of your sequence, for however many emails you use, like I said before, I worked with a company who love copywriting, and they sent out 15 emails. Or you can do 3, you can do however many you want. At the very end of it, this is optional, but you may want to enter them into another automation. So does the contact match the following conditions after the last email sent? If they are a buyer, either through site tracking or through tags, if they are a buyer, again, you've done your work, you can kick them out. If no, you might potentially want to enter them into another automation. So for this example, it might be a re-engagement series. So, for this probably isn't actually the best example for this automation. So after only a couple emails and someone who is a hot lead, after essentially only a couple of days, they wouldn't be put back into a re-engagement series. And I personally, I like to use every single bit of an automation tool that I can. So I would only enter in a customer into a re-engagement series or re-indoctrination series based off of a RFM or lead scoring algorithm that I've set up either with API integrations or within the tool itself. But that's, I may get more into that into another series, but for now, keeping it very basic, you may want to add them into another automation if this doesn't work. That could be if these automated emails don't work, maybe you'll enter them into a sales sequence. And then the sales sequence has very set tasks that your salespeople have to try to get that person back. If you don't have your salespeople immediately following up as soon as the person abandons the cart, because that can also be a pretty useful tactic. But depending on the size of your team, whether you even have salespeople, or if you're just a sole proprietor doing all this work yourself, that may not be the best path. So that is definitely an option. Now, the last section, you have to end your automation. Every automation, just like how most require a trigger, most require a set end, something that means an end to this automation and the end of the customer's journey. Now, sometimes you can just end it. Sometimes you want to add them into another automation. At the end of this, maybe you want to add contacts. Maybe you want to add a tag. So maybe at the end of this, you add a tag unconverted. So after the entire sequence, you add a tag marked as unconverted. And then after a certain amount of time, you can either put them in a list that you can send targeted campaigns to later, or you can enter them into an unconverted indoctrination campaign or automation later on. And that's that. Now, if you would like to use Active Campaign, you can click the link below to sign up. Now, this is an affiliate link. So if you do sign up through it, I will get paid. However, I personally will not charge you anything. In fact, if you do sign up to the affiliate link, I will give you 2 free hours of marketing automation guidance. And in addition, I will give you 1 free pro bono 1-hour Zoom meeting to help you set up your first automation. And again, the only price you're paying is purchasing a tool that you'll need for your business anyway. So if you do click that link and sign up, send me an email at austin.spence@animusgrp.com, and we'll schedule a meeting to get you set up. If you do want more walkthroughs or guidance on any other topics that are not included in this module or this course, send me a message, comment down below, and we'll take them into consideration. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the future.